So I guess I'll just kind of start a little bit on the process on all the trees out here. I guess when people say that, you know, we're out planting trees, what type of trees we're dealing with. They're all bare root stock, so they're all little baby seedlings. And so like what you see here, you know, these aren't just planted, you know, last year or the year before. You know, it takes a while to get them established. So where we get them early in the spring, early May, and then a lot of them are lifted out of the ground in the fall, and they're actually stored over winter. Some are lifted right away in the spring, and we get them. And so you have to, the season's very short. It's about a month. We have to be done by planting by May 31st. So it's a very rush, you know, it's a short window to get it all in. And so where we got the food, that was the cooler storage. And then so we have to take care of those trees for a month before they go into the ground. So I guess I would just explain, like, the Arboretum's really young as far as Arboretums go. I think the first trees out here, the more established ones, were probably about 2010, Daryl? 2012. So they're actually doing pretty well out here. And then as we move, you know, towards the north here, those are probably maybe about 5 years, somewhere around in there, about 5 years old. So some are definitely doing better than others. And so as we walk past her, there's a few different varieties that you might have noticed. Like the first row was nannyberry, some cranberries in there, and then there was some black currant, all flowering earlier. And then you have winterberry. That's a little bit different, that third row there. You don't see a lot of that. Very, very neat fall color. So with this year was a little bit different than a normal year, I would say, with the temperatures. So the bloom periods were a little bit short, I would say. I don't know if I'm on off base with that, but it seemed like, you know, the early stuff, it was so warm that it didn't last very long. Like the lilacs were maybe about a week or so, which is not normal. You get cooler temperatures, and they seem to last a little bit longer, but this year was a little different. So one of the things that I did notice with the blooming of some of the crab apples and the lilacs was that I live about 20 miles north of Bismarck, and Bismarck lilacs and crab apples were blooming about a week before they were there. So I just, that one observation. And so we heard a few times about the early bloom period and the middle season and the late. In this area, a late blooming tree or shrub, that's mainly what we're gonna visit about out here. It's very hard to find a late blooming pollinating tree. One of the few, we don't have any really mature ones here, but in Bismarck a lot of them are blooming, is the linden. So that's one of the very few that'll bloom later on in the season. So the earlier blooming ones, a lot of times you'll see them blooming in right away. There might even be snow on the ground. Russian almond, that first one there, we'll walk by it. We'll kind of move around here a little bit. I'll make as few stops as possible, but there's a lot of different variety in here. And so as you get past the, this is Carigana, and then that's Velosa lilac or late lilac. Any guesses how it got its name with the late lilac, late blooming? There's still a few blooms on there, but they're almost done. So anyway, once you get past there, basically everything out there is something different, and it's everything that the soil district plants out in the county, or just variety, I guess. Anything that we get in the cooler that we have in stock. So there's a lot of different things to look at on the way. So I guess with that, we'll move on to the next site. I guess as we were walking, like I said, at the end of this row here was Russian almond, and that's another one of the first ones to bloom in the spring. Very pretty pink flowers. It's the bees aren't really active at that time. But I remember a few years back when we were planting, and we were planting next to an existing Russian almond row, and the bees there was snow over here, and we were planting, and there was bees just buzzing around. So it was just something a little different, you know, observations. And so, like I said, there's a lot of them are labeled in here. Some of them aren't, or some of them the labels are buried in the growth. We'll have to move those out. But
What was that one called? What was that called with the pink flowers?
oh, Russian almond. What was the one I mentioned was Russian almond,
Okay.
not Russian olive. Russian almond. Yeah, yeah. So this one right here is a winterberry. Like I said, I mentioned there's a row of them to the south there, and in the fall they get really pretty, like I don't know, like a light pink color. Little different, you know, they're not like dark pink. It's just really a light, and then the berries on there will get that light pink color, so they really stand out, really neat.
Can you harvest and eat those berries?
I don't know if you can eat them. I don't think so, but I don't know. If anybody knows, yell. Okay, nobody knows. Okay, so here we have a sumac. This is a skunk bush sumac. It does not smell like a skunk. It's actually very, if you want to pick a leaf, go ahead and just kind of crush it a little bit. It smells very nice. It's got a nice scent to it. Very hardy. And then, I picked out this spot because it's kind of in the middle. We're kind of in the middle of stuff, of some of the blooming shrubs. So this here is a smooth sumac, and this one is in pretty much full bloom. The book would say that this is an early bloomer for the early season bloomer, but I don't know. I kind of disagree with this year. I'm sure it's different each year, but yeah, this I would say more of a middle now because all the early stuff is kind of finished up. But very, very, you know, nice ornamental, kind of tropical looking. This will get really bright, dark red color in the fall, really stands out. I will warn you though, these do sucker like crazy. So yeah, they use these for bank stabilizations a lot. You see, if you've ever been in Jamestown, these are all over in the ditches, and they're very pretty in the fall, but yeah, you want to be careful where you plant them. And so we plant a lot of different stuff out here. We don't, believe it or not, we don't always succeed in some of our plantings. This poor staghorn sumac, rest in peace, was doing very well, but for some reason, you know, just didn't make it through the year last year. It was a tough year, and it didn't have enough nutrients or whatever to make it through the winter. So.
Chad, what was the name of this one again?
This one here?
Yep, this one here.
Yeah, this tree is a smooth sumac. Smooth.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then behind you, there's right here, this is a cranberry, high bush cranberry. Very tart berries. So I'm just going to kind of touch on a lot of the flowering ones, even though they're not flowering. They're pollinators. They're fruit bearing, a lot of them. Some of them aren't, but so that's high bush cranberry. That also gets nice fall color red. Black currant does sucker. Very, very good berry on there. You can walk by and eat them when they're ripe. And then as we go down, we have gray dogwood there, which is blooming. Next to that is the rhodosia dogwood. Has a few blooms on it. And then I don't know, one of kind of my favorites is the elderberry, just because the size of the flowers. The berries are very good to eat. Kind of earthy tasting, I guess I would say, but very popular for wine, I would say. And you can make jams, jellies. One of the big, they've been out of production, or they can't keep up with the berries in the U.S. for the last few years because of I believe it's the only certified study that will kill the flu virus. So you can use your assumptions why that's popular the last few years. So that's but very interesting shrub and beautiful flowers. It's just starting to flower. They'll turn more bright white and get bigger. And then here we have some honeysuckles. These are just a few different varieties. That's a Freedom, I believe, and then this is a Hawkeye, I think. And so I guess I'd mentioned earlier about that everything in here is what was in our tree cooler. Started out as a little baby tree, so we don't have like fancy cultivars or anything like that, or varieties. It's conservation trees for the most part. There might be some borderline ones, but for the most part it's conservation trees. And feel free, I mean, if you want to walk around and kind of look a little bit, I'll just kind of keep talking, and then we'll go down here, and then well, I guess we don't have to go down there now because we're close enough, but we'll go back over here in a little bit, and I'll just kind of keep talking, and if you have questions, just yell them out. So over on the fence there, the corral I don't know, was that corral panel thingy? Sheep panel? I'm not a cowboy, I don't know these things. But that's a grape. That's a riverbank grape. This year with the moisture, I believe is producing heavily, and I think it's going to be a good crop this year of riverbank grape if I can get them before the birds do. Around the corner of the honeysuckle is the honeyberry. Very popular, gaining in the last couple years.
Which variety are you growing?
So we have, there's probably about 6 different varieties. We have quite a few. So I learned the hard way that you need multiple varieties and you need the correct varieties.
Yeah.
When we started out, they would produce berries, but they were very small and they didn't produce a lot. So then we did some research, added some different varieties, and now they produce heavily, and they're a lot bigger. Yeah, very tasty.
Birds get 'em all.
Yes, birds get them as fast as you can pick them.
I
So.
think I've got all 6 varieties.
And then so on the end there, that's another mid-season, I guess they would call it, is Japanese tree lilac. If you're in the Bismarck area, they are blooming all over town. Very beautiful, very fragrant. If you walk by it, it's really nice smell. And then I guess one other interesting one that you don't see very often is, as you're standing next to there, that is a mulberry. That came out of South Dakota. It's not a trader mulberry, it's just a mulberry. That one's about 4 years old, and so that it's I would say that one's hardy. They may be kind of borderline for this area, but I don't know, that one's doing okay. And for planting trees, for conservation trees, I guess I should mention, because we have so much variety here, and I would say we're fairly successful on growing different varieties, that we always look at the soils first. So this soil is pretty good. That's one thing that we look at when we're designing tree plans, and it is matching the tree for the soil to make sure it's going to work. Sometimes, like say an evergreen spruce might not do well in a site that a ponderosa pine or something like that. So you always want to kind of match those up. This area, we're pretty fortunate where you can kind of throw a lot of things out here and they'll do okay. Somebody had asked about a black chokeberry or aronia, and yep, it's right down there. That one should be labeled. It is. Yep, that one is labeled, and I really like those. They flower nice white little flowers, but they're very easy to pick. The berries are, and they're very large, like kind of a blueberry size, but they're a little more choke cherry tasting. And fall color on those is very nice as well. This row here, there's a little bit of a variety in here. In the middle and towards the east end there, that's kind of the willow row. So there's a few different varieties. On the end, the very dark, shiny green one is a laurel leaf willow. Willows are all, there are pollinators as well. And then up up from that towards this way would be a peach leaf willow. And then the tall one there is a Arctic blue willow, which is supposed to be a shrub, dwarf, but that does not look like a dwarf shrub to me. But yeah, very, very pretty. And then the one next to Dave with the cowboy hat there, that is a dwarf golden willow. So that shouldn't get a whole lot bigger than that. I don't know. And then up here we have an interesting one. This is a catalpa. A lot of our workers call them the big bean leaf tree. This is the first year it's flowered. It has done a lot of growing in the last 4 years and a lot of dying, but it always comes back. So I haven't done a lot of, or we don't do a lot of pruning out here, as you can tell. The trees that are kind of pruned up, a lot of those, that's from tree tubes. They did it naturally, I guess, with the tree tube. And the tree tubes have helped stimulate growth, kind of mini greenhouse effect. We've taken most of those off out here, so we don't have those. But yeah, the catalpa is flowering. Like I said, this is the first year it has flowered. Very pretty flowers. It'll produce a large bean, probably like foot long, 10 inches long, something like that. And it's very, very interesting. It will be a tree. It's not a shrub. That at some point, hopefully, that will turn into a big, nice shade tree. There are a few in Bismarck. You don't see that one around a lot.
I have a question. Do you guys sell grapes? Like, do you guys sell grapes?
Yeah. Oh, yep. We had a question about the grapes. So we do sell riverbank grape. We do have those available in the springtime. If anybody wants to place an order for trees there, I guess I'll do a shameless plug here. Our tree store will be open beginning of October at minokanfarm.com, and then so they'll have listings of what's available on there. And if it's something that you've seen out here or that you know will grow here and it's something we should get here, and it's not on the list, let me know, and we can try to make that happen. And then over here, this is not a pollinator, but this is interesting larch tree, one of the few evergreens that lose their needles in the fall and then they grow back in the spring. This will turn golden color in the fall, and the needles are super soft, very, very nice. And this one actually had a lot of deer damage. Otherwise, there's another one on the end, the biggest one down there in that same row. That is a European larch. This is a Siberian larch. But this one, the deer got after this one a few years back. And then I guess in some of the larger shade tree rows, obviously there's not a lot of shade trees out, like they're not that big yet, but eventually they will be, hopefully. We make sure we space them out far enough. So the spacing, the row space, or the tree spacing in the row is very important. We do space them out, or we try to give enough space to fill out their healthier tree, and they can kind of do their thing. In between, you will notice that in between some of the shade trees or potential shade trees, there are like some shrubs in between, and those are honeyberries and some other stuff that are very low growing. With the thought of that at some point down the road, it would be nice as you're walking through the arboretum out here that you may pick a fruit or something like that and eat it or whatever. That might be kind of neat. But like Daryl had mentioned to me that this is a resource for the public. You're all welcome to come out and visit us. I guess with that, I'll kind of wrap up with, do you have any questions?
You have some bushes over here with kind of fuzzy berries on them.
Yeah.
What are those guys?
Okay, the question was some bushes with some fuzzy berry type things on them. So that is Russian almond, and so those are the little almonds on there. They're not edible. The tannins are too high in them, but some wildlife do like them. Yep. And so I guess
Early bloomer.
Yep, blooms very early in the spring. And then so like that, the middle row there, that's kind of, you know, it's got a lot of diversity in it. There's a lot of different things, and that's one of the things that I kind of like about when designing tree plans is putting that component in there, because I think it's fun. I don't know, some people may not like the, you know, they would like it very uniform and the same, where I think it's kind of fun to walk through here and try to identify and see the different characteristics of each tree, and just noticing things in here. You get a lot of birds chirping, different birds, and all of these pollinators also provide you know, insect habitat, having different levels, different color of flowers, attract different pollinators. So I didn't talk a ton about pollinators, but you know, I'll throw some of that in there. So with that, if there's no more questions, all right.